Your mind is like a browser with too many tabs open, all frozen at once. That constant hum of worry and replay is the mental exhaustion of overthinking. Nearly 2,000 years ago, the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius offered a simple but profound antidote when he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Stoicism is not some dusty philosophy. It is a practical toolkit for mental peace. By the end of this video, you will have a clear set of Stoic evaluation techniques to quiet the noise and reclaim your mental space. We will uncover how a single question can filter out much of your anxiety and explore the radical practice of loving your fate. What is the one thought that most often steals your focus and peace? The first and most crucial filter for any thought is this simple question: is this within my control, or is it not? This is the core of the Stoic principle known as the dichotomy of control, a powerful idea from the teacher Epictetus. He taught that our peace of mind depends on making this distinction clearly and relentlessly. So much of our mental clutter is generated by one futile effort, trying to manage what is ultimately unmanageable. We exhaust ourselves worrying about what others think of us, replaying conversations from the past, or anxiously scripting every possible future outcome. These are all external events firmly outside the sphere of your direct command. Epictetus directs our attention inward to the one true domain we govern: our own judgments, our intentions, and our actions. Think about a job interview. You cannot control the other candidates, the questions you will be asked, or the final decision of the hiring manager. These are external. What you can control is your preparation, the research you do, the clarity of your responses, and the attitude you bring into the room. By shifting your focus entirely to that inner circle of control, you drain the situation of its anxious power. You trade frantic worry for purposeful action. Take a moment and bring to mind 3 things you are currently overthinking. Now, honestly categorize each one. Is it something within your control, or is it outside of it? This simple act of sorting your thoughts is the first step toward clearing the mental fog. What if you could install a spam filter for your mind, one that catches anxious and unhelpful thoughts before they can clutter your mental inbox? This is the precise function of Stoic evaluation. It is the disciplined practice of assessing your initial impressions before you ever accept them as truth. The Stoics understood that our first reaction to any event is just raw data, a neutral impression. It is our immediate, often unconscious judgment about that impression that sparks the cycle of overthinking. By inserting a moment of conscious evaluation, you encourage your thinking to slow down. You create a space between the event and your reaction, a space where mental clutter cannot easily grow. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of this need to strip away the story we add to things. He wrote that our disturbances arise not from events themselves, but from the judgments we attach to them. Consider a simple, modern example. You receive a brief text message from a friend, just a single word reply. The initial impression is the factual data, the words on the screen, but your mind instantly adds a narrative layer. You imagine they might be upset with you. You replay your last interaction. You start thinking about a possible response. The mental noise can feel overwhelming. Stoic evaluation asks you to separate the two. The fact is the text, the story is your interpretation. By naming the impression for what it is, you reclaim your power. The next time a stressful thought arises, try this simple practice. Pause and literally name the impression. Say to yourself, "This is a story I am telling myself about being turned down," or "this is a judgment I am making about my performance." This act of naming creates that crucial separation. It allows you to see the thought as a passing piece of data, not an absolute truth you must obey. The Stoics proposed a radical shift from fighting reality to loving it. This is the heart of a profound principle known as amor fati, a love of one's fate. It moves far beyond simple acceptance or quiet endurance. It is an active, wholehearted embrace of every single event, especially the setbacks and the unexpected turns. When you struggle against what is already true, you create immense mental friction. Your mind expends enormous energy on resistance, on wishing things were different, and this internal conflict is a primary source of mental clutter. Acceptance, by contrast, is not a passive surrender. It is a conscious decision to stop arguing with reality, and that choice brings immediate cognitive relief. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche later captured this Stoic spirit perfectly when he wrote about amor fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity. This is the essence of accepting providence, the Stoic belief that the universe is unfolding as it should, even when we cannot see the pattern. Imagine you have been looking forward to a trip for months, and it is suddenly cancelled due to bad weather. The initial reaction is often frustration and disappointment. The mental clutter begins to build, replaying the situation and focusing on the unfairness. But amor fati invites a different response. It asks you to pivot from asking "why did this happen to me?" to asking "what can I find in this new situation?" Perhaps the cancelled trip gives you a completely free weekend you did not expect, offering valuable rest or the chance to finally start a project at home. The event itself has not changed, but your relationship to it has transformed entirely. Think of a recent disappointment in your own life, something small or large that did not go your way. For a moment, reframe that event. Ask yourself, what hidden advantage can I find in this situation? The answer might not be obvious at first, but the simple act of asking the question begins to rewire your perception. It shifts you from being a passive observer of circumstance to an active participant in your own story, finding value and opportunity where you once saw only difficulty. Let's take a step back, way back, and view your life from a cosmic vantage point. This is the ancient Stoic practice known as the view from above, a powerful mental technique for dissolving the mountain of a problem back into the molehill it often is. Your mind, caught in the thick of a stressful moment, has a tendency to magnify everything. A critical comment can feel like a permanent mark on your character, and a missed deadline can seem to threaten your entire future. This practice systematically shrinks those anxieties by placing them against the immense backdrop of time and space. Marcus Aurelius was a master of this, constantly reminding himself to look at things in their entirety. He wrote about reflecting on the universal substance, of which you have a very small portion, and of universal time, of which a short and indivisible interval has been assigned to you. He would contemplate the vastness of the cosmos and the endless flow of history to realize his own concerns were fleeting and small. Imagine you are feeling a surge of social anxiety before speaking in a meeting. Your heart is racing, your palms are damp, and your mind is cycling through every possible thing that could go wrong. Now, initiate the view from above. In your mind's eye, pull your perspective up and out of the room. See your building from above, then your entire city, looking like an intricate map. Keep going until you see the planet, a silent, blue sphere hanging in the immense blackness of space. On that sphere, in one city, in one building, in one room, is this single moment of your apprehension. From this cosmic distance, does the weight of that awkward sentence you fear saying feel quite so heavy? This is not about minimizing your experience, but about maximizing your perspective. The next time a worry threatens to consume you, try this visualization. Picture your own neighborhood from space, a tiny patch of light in the vast darkness. Your current challenge is just one flicker in that light, a momentary blip in a long and expansive life. This shift in perspective does not solve the problem for you, but it does solve the problem of the problem, stripping it of its overwhelming power and returning to you a clear and calm mind. This practice is often misunderstood as a form of pessimism, but its true purpose is profound preparedness. We are not dwelling on the worst to invite it in, but to disarm its power over our mind. This is the Stoic exercise of premeditatio malorum, the pre-contemplation of difficulties. By consciously and calmly visualizing potential challenges or changes, we perform a kind of mental preparation. We expose ourselves to a small, thoughtful consideration of a feared event, which builds our inner resilience so that if it ever does occur, it cannot overwhelm us into a state of paralysis or deep worry. The Roman philosopher Seneca beautifully captured this mindset when he wrote that the wise person anticipates the shifts of fortune, softening their impact by considering them in advance. He lives every day as if it were his complete life, neither agitated by longing for the future nor by sorrow for the past. Think of a valuable possession, perhaps a piece of technology you rely on. Now imagine it breaking unexpectedly. Feel the initial jolt of frustration and change. Then, sit with that feeling and acknowledge it. The Stoic practice asks you to go a step further and realize that you are still fundamentally okay. Your capacity for work, for connection, for joy does not reside in that single object. By mentally rehearsing its absence, you are not cursing yourself. You are simply acknowledging a fragile reality. You are preparing your inner self so that an external event cannot so easily disrupt your peace. Take a common modern concern, like the possibility of a career transition. For just a moment, do not push the thought away. Instead, hold it in your mind without the usual spiral of panic. Acknowledge the practical challenges it would present, but then also consider your own resilience. You have skills, you have the ability to adapt, you have faced difficulties before. This act of pre-acceptance does not make the event desirable, but it does drain the idea of its terrifying, unknown quality. The shadow loses its power once you shine the light of reason upon it. You have just taken a feared future and transformed it from a source of mental clutter into a manageable, though difficult, scenario. This is how you build a mind that is not easily surprised or shaken by the inevitable turns of life. The Stoics used a powerful end-of-day ritual to clear mental clutter, a practice far more structured than simply writing down your feelings. This is Stoic journaling, a form of deliberate debriefing designed to untangle the judgments that fuel your overthinking. Think of it as a nightly system scan for your mind, identifying the bugs in your own reasoning before they can disrupt your mental operating system. Seneca wrote of holding daily conversations with himself, carefully reviewing his own character to see where his challenges lay and where he was making progress. He believed this nightly review was the path to self-improvement and lasting tranquility. The process centers on three pivotal questions. First, ask yourself, what did I do well today in accordance with reason and virtue? This is not about ego, but about reinforcing productive patterns. Perhaps you managed to pause before sending a reactive email, exercising control over your initial impulse. The second question is, what could I have improved? This focuses on your sphere of control, your own actions and reactions, not on blaming others. Maybe you noticed a judgment of envy toward a colleague and wish you had met that feeling with more understanding. The third and most crucial question is, what judgments were faulty or mistaken? This is where you dissect the mental clutter. Imagine you had a frustrating work interaction where a team member dismissed your idea. Your journal entry would not rehash their unfairness. Instead, you would examine your own judgment. You might write, "I judged this situation as a personal failure, which caused me hours of anxiety. I see now that my value is not determined by one rejected idea." By framing the event this way, you are not just venting, you are actively reprogramming your mind's default responses. The clutter is not the event itself, but the story you attach to it, and tonight you are choosing a new, more empowering narrative. Your challenge is to set aside just 5 minutes tonight. With a notebook or a simple digital document, ask yourself these 3 Stoic questions. This small investment can become the most effective filter you ever install, systematically clearing the mental noise from your day and preparing you for a more peaceful tomorrow. What would you do differently today if you were acutely aware that your time is finite? This question is the heart of a Stoic practice known as memento mori, a Latin phrase that translates to remember you must die. Far from being a dark fixation, this is one of the most liberating tools for clearing mental clutter. It acts as a thoughtful editor for your life, cutting through the noise of trivial concerns and leaving only what is truly essential. When you remember that your life has a limit, the small stuff loses its power to consume you. Marcus Aurelius framed this with striking immediacy in his Meditations. He wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." He was not inviting despair, but instilling a profound sense of urgency and clarity. Imagine you have spent the afternoon worrying about a piece of minor criticism from a colleague, replaying the comment in your mind and feeling your frustration grow. Now hold that same concern up against the vast, undeniable truth of your own human journey. From that perspective, does that single critical comment still deserve hours of your precious and limited mental energy? The practice of memento mori does not ask you to dwell on an ending, but to refocus on your precious present. It forces a recalibration of your attention, shifting it from what is urgent to what is ultimately important. The mental chatter about social slights, perfect outcomes, and future uncertainties begins to quiet down when measured against the simple question of what truly matters in the grand scheme of your one life. Take a moment and bring to mind one thing you are currently overthinking, perhaps a fear of looking foolish or an obsession with a small mistake. Now, if you fully embraced the idea of memento mori, would you choose to let that thought occupy your mind? Write down one worry you would consciously release, not because it is insignificant, but because your finite time is too valuable to spend on it. This remembrance is not an end, but a beginning, a way to ensure that the life you are living is not cluttered with anxieties but filled with purpose. Strip away the story and you are left with the simple facts. This is the heart of cognitive decluttering, a Stoic practice that teaches us to see events in plain, objective terms, free from the dramatic labels we so often attach. We have a natural tendency to layer our experiences with heavy words, and it is this added narrative that fuels the fire of overthinking. The ancient teacher Epictetus offered a timeless insight when he taught that it is not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. The event itself is neutral. It is our interpretation that carries the emotional charge and creates the mental clutter. By learning to describe what happened in simple, factual language, we take back control. For example, instead of declaring a presentation was a total failure, you would state the objective reality. "I spoke for 10 minutes. I presented 3 main points." The audience was quiet during the second point, and 2 people asked clarifying questions at the end. Do you feel the difference between those 2 statements? The first is a heavy, global judgment that invites a spiral of self-criticism. The second is a collection of neutral observations that you can calmly learn from. One version clutters your mind with emotion, while the other clears space for rational assessment. Think of a concern that is currently on your mind. Now try this exercise of objective representation. Write it down or say it aloud, but only using plain, observable facts. Strip away any words that judge, predict the future, or assume the thoughts of others. You are not denying the event occurred. You are simply refusing to amplify it with your own mental commentary. This act of seeing things as they truly are, not worse than they are, is a profound step toward a quieter and more manageable inner world. Much of our mental clutter comes from wanting things we cannot have or control. That restless ache for a different outcome, a different possession, or a different reaction from someone else creates a constant undercurrent of dissatisfaction. The Stoics identified this as a primary source of inner turmoil and offered a powerful corrective known as the discipline of desire. This principle is about consciously aligning your deepest wants with what is truly good and within your power, which is your own character and your reasoned choices. When your desires are fixed on external targets like wealth, fame, or specific outcomes, you hand over your mental peace to the whims of chance. You are setting yourself up for inevitable frustration because the outside world operates by its own rules, not yours. The Stoic teacher Epictetus put it with clarity when he wrote, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." This is the essence of curbing the endless pull of wanting more, and instead finding contentment in cultivating your own virtue. Consider the mental chaos of desperately wanting a specific promotion. Your mind becomes consumed with imagining the title, the recognition, the change in circumstances. You replay every interaction with your manager, you compare yourself to colleagues, and you tie your entire sense of self-worth to a decision made in a closed room, a decision entirely outside your control. Now contrast that with shifting your desire inward. Your goal transforms from getting the promotion to simply doing your best work. You desire to act with integrity, to be diligent, to contribute with courage and wisdom. This shift is profound. The outcome of the promotion is the same, but your internal world is completely different. One path is filled with anxiety and mental noise, the other is grounded in a quiet, stable purpose that no one can take from you. Take a moment and bring to mind one external thing you strongly desire right now. It could be a certain level of income, a particular relationship status, or a claim for a project. Now ask yourself this pivotal question: how can I transform this desire for an external outcome into a desire for an internal virtue? If you want that promotion, can you instead desire to be the most competent and helpful person in your role? If you desire a certain relationship, can you focus on being a more patient and understanding person yourself? This is not about giving up on your goals, but about changing where you place your emotional investment. By desiring only what is firmly within your control, you build a mind that is no longer hostage to fortune, a mind that finds its satisfaction not in what it acquires, but in who it becomes. Mental resistance is a battle you can never win. Every moment you spend arguing with an unchangeable fact drains your energy, fueling the very clutter we seek to clear. The Stoic alternative is the quiet art of acquiescence, a willing and immediate acceptance of the present moment exactly as it is. This is not passive surrender, but a conscious, energy-saving decision to stop the internal debate. Marcus Aurelius guided himself with this principle, writing that we should take a sort of delight in the things we are assigned to do and be satisfied with that. He saw acceptance not as a burden but as the very path to a tranquil mind. Think of the common frustration of being stuck in traffic. Your first impulse is to fight the reality. You tense your hands on the wheel, you mentally note the delay, you recalculate your arrival time again and again. This internal struggle creates a storm of mental noise, yet it does not move the cars a single inch forward. Now apply the art of acquiescence. The moment you recognize the traffic is an unchangeable fact, you can consciously choose to accept it. You take a breath and offer a silent, internal yes to the situation. The event itself remains the same, but your internal war against it ceases. The mental energy you were spending on resistance is suddenly freed. You might choose to listen to an interesting podcast or simply use the time for quiet reflection. The next time you face a minor inconvenience, a delayed package, or a sudden change of plans, practice this silent yes. Do not let your mind launch into its familiar campaign of protest. Instead, meet the moment with a simple, internal acceptance. You will discover that the greatest source of stress was never the situation itself, but your own exhausting refusal to allow it to be true. Stoicism offers a form of mindfulness rooted in purpose. While we have explored how to evaluate thoughts and accept fate, the most direct path to quieting mental noise is to anchor your attention firmly in the present moment. Overthinking is a ghost that cannot live in the here and now. It feeds on the regrets of the past and the anxieties of the future, two places where your energy is spent but your influence is zero. The Roman philosopher Seneca saw this clearly, writing that we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. We are always adding to our pains, he noted, by picturing future sorrows that may never arrive. This is the engine of rumination, and it can be switched off by a deliberate shift of awareness. Your breath is always happening right now. For a moment, simply notice it. Feel the cool air entering your nostrils and the slightly warmer air leaving. Notice the gentle rise and fall of your chest or the expansion of your abdomen. Your mind might try to pull you back into a worry, but you can gently guide it back to this single, physical sensation. This is not an escape from reality, but a deeper engagement with the only reality you can ever truly experience, the present. This practice is your emergency brake for a runaway mind. Today, I challenge you to take a 1-minute sensory break. Wherever you are, pause and consciously note 5 things you can see in your immediate environment. Then 5 distinct sounds you can hear. Finally, 5 physical sensations you can feel, like the texture of your clothing or the surface beneath your feet. This simple act pulls you out of the abstract world of worry and plants you firmly back in the tangible present, clearing a space of calm in the midst of the mental storm. This single idea can dissolve a huge amount of anxiety. For the Stoics, the only true good is your own character, your moral virtue. Everything else in life, from your wealth and reputation to your health and relationships, is classified as an indifferent. This does not mean these things are unimportant or that you should not prefer them. It means they do not determine your worth or your capacity for a good life. They are simply the materials you work with, not the final measure of your work. The moment you stop labeling external events as good or bad for your happiness, you strip them of their power to send your mind into a tailspin of obsessive thought. The philosopher Epictetus drew this line with absolute clarity. He taught that our own judgments, our impulses, our desires and aversions are what is truly up to us. Everything else is not up to us. Your peace of mind, therefore, must be anchored in what is up to you. Consider a significant financial loss. The initial, automatic judgment is to see it as a difficult moment, a challenging event. This label immediately triggers a cascade of mental clutter. You worry about the future, you reflect on past decisions, you consider your situation in a broader context. Now apply the Stoic lens. The financial loss itself is an indifferent and external event. It is neither good nor bad. What gives it meaning is your response, which is entirely within your control. You can now reframe this event not as a disaster, but as a unique opportunity to practice the virtues of wisdom and temperance. It is a test of your ability to manage resources more thoughtfully, to distinguish between wants and needs, and to demonstrate resilience. The event has not changed, but your relationship to it has been completely transformed from a source of anxiety into a field for character development. Think of a recent event you initially classified as challenging. Perhaps a project at work did not receive the recognition you hoped for, or a personal plan fell through. For a moment, reframe it. Ask yourself, how did this situation provide an opportunity to practice patience or courage or humility? The answer reveals that the event was not an obstacle to your good life, but the very ground upon which you could build it. There is a subtle phrase that can completely rewire how you relate to your own plans. Think of it as a mental safety net, a simple clause you add to your intentions that protects your peace of mind. The Stoics called this the reserve clause, the practice of mentally adding fate permitting or a similar acknowledgement to any goal you set. This is not about superstition, but about internalizing a profound detachment from specific outcomes. You commit fully to your actions while simultaneously holding the result with an open hand. The Stoic ideal was to follow nature willingly, as the philosopher Cleans suggested, while also being prepared for any obstacle that might arise. This dual approach builds immense emotional resilience. By acknowledging from the outset that the final outcome is not entirely yours to command, you prevent the mental crash when life inevitably diverts from your script. You pour your energy into the process, the part you control, while releasing your grip on the prize, the part you do not. Imagine you have been planning a weekend hike for days, looking forward to the fresh air and the scenic views. You can hold this plan in two different ways. The first is a rigid expectation, a definitive statement that this hike will happen. When a sudden rainstorm cancels your outing, the disappointment is sharp and personal, a disruption that can cloud your entire day. Now apply the reserve clause. From the beginning, you hold the plan as I will go for a hike this weekend, fate permitting. When the rain arrives, the change in plans feels less like a personal failure and more like a natural part of the flow you had already acknowledged. The event is the same, but your internal experience is one of graceful adjustment, not frustrated resistance. Bring to mind a current goal you are working toward, perhaps a project you want to complete or an event you hope to attend. Now formulate that plan in your mind, but consciously add the silent phrase, fate permitting. Feel the subtle shift in your mental posture, the slight release of tension as you affirm your effort while accepting that the final result belongs to a larger order of things. This small mental habit is a powerful declaration that your tranquility is not for sale, not even for the price of a perfectly executed plan. The Stoics saw themselves as vital threads in a vast living tapestry. When you are lost in the narrow confines of your own story, every minor problem can feel like a world-ending event, generating endless mental noise. The ancient principle of sympatheia offers a powerful antidote to this self-centered worry. It is the profound recognition that you are not an isolated island, but an inseparable part of a single, interconnected whole. Your anxieties, your conflicts, and your joys are all tiny expressions of a universal human experience. Marcus Aurelius constantly returned to this idea for solace, writing in his meditations that all things are woven together with one another, and a sacred bond unites them. He reflected on the orderly web of the universe, where every event is connected and nothing happens in isolation. This perspective does not minimize your personal struggles, but it places them in a context so vast that their power to overwhelm you begins to fade. Consider a recent conflict with a colleague, a source of frustration that replays in your mind. You feel personally wronged, and the mental chatter focuses entirely on your grievance. Now view that same conflict through the lens of sympatheia. See it as a single, small point of friction in the immense, shared human endeavor. Your colleague is acting from their own set of pressures, their own history, and their own limited understanding, just as you are. This is not about assigning blame, but about recognizing a shared participation in a larger pattern. The event itself remains, but the story you tell about it shifts from a personal attack to a momentary knot in the universal web, one that can be approached with greater patience and understanding. Bring to mind one personal struggle that feels heavy and uniquely yours. Now consider how countless other human beings across centuries and cultures have faced a version of this same challenge. You are not alone in your experience. This simple act of connecting your story to the grander human narrative can drain the situation of its isolating power, replacing mental clutter with a quiet sense of shared resilience and belonging. The block becomes the stepping stone. This is the heart of Stoic alchemy, a way of seeing that does not just tolerate obstacles but actively transforms them. An impediment is no longer a wall stopping your progress. It is the very material you will use to build a bridge forward. This reframe is a psychological masterstroke, instantly converting the draining energy of frustration into the focused energy of creative problem solving. When you stop fighting the obstacle and start working with it, you break the negative thought loop at its source. Marcus Aurelius captured this transformative power in one of his most famous lines, writing in his private journal, "The obstacle is the way." He was not offering a comforting platitude, but stating a practical principle of perception. The very thing that seems to stand in your path is not a diversion from your journey. It is the essential path itself. Consider a significant project setback, like a key team member leaving unexpectedly. The initial automatic reaction is to see this as a pure failure, a derailment of your carefully laid plans. Mental clutter immediately floods in with thoughts of unfairness, worries about timelines, and anxieties about the future. Now apply the Stoic alchemy. The departure is not a block, it is the block. It is your raw material. This situation now becomes your unique chance to practice the virtue of perseverance. It is an opportunity to strengthen your own leadership by guiding the remaining team, to cultivate adaptability by rethinking your strategy, and to demonstrate resilience in the face of change. The obstacle did not change, but your relationship to it has been completely inverted. What was once a source of anxiety is now a field for growth. Bring to mind one current obstacle in your own life, something that feels like a frustrating barrier. Now challenge yourself with this single question. If this obstacle is the way, what Stoic virtue does it invite me to practice? Is it a chance to build patience, to exercise courage, or to learn humility? Your obstacle is not a random piece of bad luck. It is a custom-made training ground for your character. By asking what it can build in you, you stop being its victim and become its student. Your mind can develop a kind of immunity to the daily chaos. This is the Stoic goal of building your inner citadel, a fortress of self that remains undisturbed by the noise outside. Marcus Aurelius wrote of this sanctuary, urging himself to retreat into this little territory of your own mind, a place of tranquility and freedom, a space that remains whole and untroubled. Think of this not as building walls to hide from the world, but as cultivating an unshakable core of self-trust founded on your deepest values. When you know who you are and what you stand for, the opinions and events swirling around you lose their power to invade and clutter your thoughts. Consider two people receiving the same piece of strong criticism. The first has no inner citadel. The words crash directly into their sense of self, stirring up waves of uncertainty and mental replay. Their entire mood and focus can feel disrupted for hours. The second person has spent time fortifying their inner self. They hear the same words, but they have a safe place to process them. From within their citadel, they can calmly evaluate the feedback, set aside what is unfair or unhelpful, and take away any small grain of useful truth without letting it define their entire day. The event was identical, but the internal experience was worlds apart. This strength comes from a foundation of clear principles. What are the values that form the bedrock of your own inner citadel? Is it integrity, compassion, a commitment to learning, or perhaps resilience itself? When you consciously identify these non-negotiable pillars, you are not just listing virtues, you are laying the stone and mortar for a mind that can stand firm when everything outside feels turbulent. Few things clutter the mind like a surge of anger. It arrives in a hot wave, flooding your thoughts with a single, urgent narrative of injustice. The Stoics viewed this powerful emotion not as an inevitable human reaction, but as a form of temporary madness, a fever of the mind rooted in a single, often faulty, judgment. Seneca, in his powerful work on anger, described it as a brief insanity, utterly devoid of reason and self-control. He observed that no force has been more disruptive to human connection, highlighting how it shatters our peace and clouds our capacity for clear thought. This clutter is not the event itself, but the judgment you attach to it, the instantaneous story that you have been deliberately wronged. Think of the last time you felt a flash of anger in a simple daily interaction. Perhaps another driver cut you off in traffic. The initial impression is the fact, the car changing lanes. The anger comes from the immediate judgment you layer on top, the story that this person acted with disrespect or negligence toward you. Stoic evaluation asks you to pause right there, in that space between the event and your reaction. Ask yourself two clarifying questions. First, was the action truly intentional, or could it have been a simple mistake, a moment of distraction? Second, is my internal response, this storm of mental noise and physical tension, proportional to the actual event? By subjecting your anger to this gentle scrutiny, you are not denying your feelings, you are simply refusing to let a single judgment hijack your entire mental state. In these heated moments, mandate a brief waiting period for yourself. When you feel that familiar heat rise, commit to doing or saying nothing for just the next 60 seconds. Use that minute to breathe and to apply this evaluation. This is not about suppressing your emotion, but about creating a buffer zone where the initial wave of anger can subside, allowing your reasoned mind to reassert its quiet authority and clear the clutter. You can train your mind to welcome hardship, not just endure it. This is the Stoic practice of voluntary discomfort, a way of deliberately choosing small challenges to inoculate yourself against the fear of future ones. Think of it as strength training for your mental resilience. By occasionally stepping into a manageable difficulty, you prove to your own anxious mind that you are far more capable than your fears suggest. This directly clears the mental clutter of what if, because you replace the unknown with the known experience of your own strength. The Stoics were influenced by the Cynics, who took this idea to its logical extreme, but the Roman philosophers adapted it for everyday life. Seneca himself wrote about periodically practicing simpler living, sleeping on a firm surface, or wearing plainer clothing. He was not advocating for a life of struggle, but for a mind that could not be shocked or disrupted by it. These small acts were a form of rehearsal, proving to himself that his peace did not depend on perfect comfort. A modern example is choosing to take a brief cold shower. The initial chill is real, but as you stand under the cool water and simply breathe through it, you are not just getting clean. You are actively demonstrating to your subconscious that you can handle physical unease without panic. You are practicing the virtue of temperance, reminding yourself that you can willingly choose less, and in that choice you break the power of the fear of lack. This week, choose one small, voluntary discomfort. It could be walking instead of driving for a short errand, or skipping a dessert you normally eat out of habit. The goal is not self-punishment but self-discovery. In that small act of choosing the more challenging path, you are building a quieter, more confident mind, one that knows it can meet life's inevitable bumps without falling apart. Your rational mind is your greatest asset against mental clutter. It is the calm, clear voice that can cut through the fog of anxious thoughts, not by suppressing them, but by gently and firmly questioning their validity. Overthinking is rarely a rational process. It is a runaway emotional reaction that presents itself as logic. The Stoics placed reason on the highest pedestal, viewing it as the divine spark within us, the one tool we can always use to navigate any storm. The teacher Epictetus gave us the essential instruction for this practice when he wrote, "Do not let the force of an impression when it first hits you knock you off your feet." Simply say to it, "Hold on a moment, let me see who you are and what you represent. Let me test you." This is the moment of conscious evaluation, where you stop being a passenger to your thoughts and become the observer. You engage your rational mind to examine the impression, to see if it is true, and to see if it is helpful. Imagine the common anxiety of public speaking. The initial impression is the simple fact that you will be speaking to a group, but the mind quickly layers on a cascade of irrational assumptions. The thought arises, "I am going to embarrass myself, and everyone will think I am incompetent." This is where you apply Socratic questioning, challenging the thought as if you were a gentle but persistent investigator. Is it an absolute truth that I will embarrass myself? Have I prepared? Is it a universal fact that everyone will form a negative opinion? What is the actual evidence for this catastrophic prediction? By systematically dismantling the irrational core of the fear, you drain it of its emotional power. The situation remains, but the paralyzing story attached to it begins to dissolve. The next time a wave of mental clutter rises, pause and ask yourself this simple three-question framework. First, is this thought objectively true, or is it just a story I am telling myself? Second, is the content of this thought within my control, or am I trying to manage the unmanageable? And third, moving beyond the initial reaction, what is the most virtuous and reasoned response available to me right now? This triad of questions transforms you from a victim of your thoughts into their master, using the light of reason to clear the shadows of overthinking. Stoic gratitude is a defense against taking things for granted. This is not a matter of plastering a false smile over your problems, but of training your vision to see the good that is already present in your life. It is a clear-eyed appreciation that directly counteracts the scarcity mindset fueling so much anxious overthinking. When your mind is fixated on what you lack, it creates a constant hum of discontent, a mental clutter of longing and comparison. Shifting your focus to what you already possess, especially the non-material aspects, quiets that noise by grounding you in a present reality that is often far more abundant than your worries suggest. Marcus Aurelius began his meditations with one of history's most detailed lists of gratitude. He did not thank fate for his imperial power or wealth, but for the specific qualities of the people in his life. He expressed thanks to his grandfather for teaching him good character, to his father for his reputation for integrity, and to the gods for the well-being he enjoyed. This was not a casual exercise, it was a disciplined rehearsal of appreciation for the foundational supports of his life, many of which were entirely outside his own making. Think of your own functioning body, the simple miracle of your lungs drawing breath or your eyes reading these words. Consider the safety of a roof over your head, a basic good that billions throughout history could not take for granted. Reflect on your access to knowledge, the collective wisdom of centuries available to you in an instant. These are not small things, they are the very architecture of a good life, and they are so easily overlooked by a mind preoccupied with what is missing. Right now, bring to mind 3 non-material things you can be grateful for in this moment. It could be the clarity of a recent insight, the memory of a friend's kindness, or the simple peace of a quiet morning. Write them down. This act of naming what is good and present is a powerful declaration that your mind is no longer for sale to the tyranny of lack. We do not have time for endless rumination. Every minute spent in a mental loop of worry or regret is a minute taken from the life you are actually living. The Stoics understood that time is the one resource we can never renew, and they built their entire philosophy around the wise investment of this fleeting, precious currency. In his powerful essay on the shortness of life, Seneca cuts directly to the heart of our collective habit. He observes, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." We are not given a short life, but we make it short, and we are not ill-supplied but wasteful of it. His words reveal the challenging truth that our mental clutter is not just a passing distraction, it is a form of profound waste. We are spending the very substance of our lives on thoughts that serve no lasting purpose. Consider a single hour lost to anxious overthinking about a comment you made yesterday. That hour is now gone forever. Contrast that with the tangible life you could have built in that same hour. You could have read a chapter of a book that shifted your perspective. You could have called a family member and deepened a connection. You could have taken one concrete step toward a personal goal. The choice is clear, and it is entirely yours to make in every moment. What mental clutter are you willing to let go of today to reclaim your time and your attention? Your answer to that question is not just a step toward mental clarity. It is a declaration of what truly matters in the one life you have been given. Your thoughts are not you, they are simply events passing through the theater of your mind. When you learn to sit back and watch them without rushing onto the stage, you discover a profound source of inner quiet. This is the practice of judging less and observing more, a core Stoic habit for creating immediate mental space. Our usual way is to quickly label every event, every comment, every thought as either positive or negative. This automatic reaction is like a spark that lights the kindling of response, starting a chain of inner talk before we even notice what is taking place. The ancient teacher Epictetus offered a powerful instruction for this very challenge. He advised, when you see someone expressing deep emotion, do not be carried away merely by the sight. He was not promoting indifference, but pointing to the power of observation over absorption. The key is to see the event clearly without letting your own opinion about it add a layer of personal reaction. Imagine a colleague makes a sharp, dismissive comment in a meeting. The automatic response is to label them as unkind or disrespectful, to take it personally. This judgment quickly triggers a swirl of mental noise, replaying the moment and planning a defensive reply. The observational approach is different. You simply note the factual event. My colleague used a strong tone and dismissed the idea. You observe the behavior without immediately building a story about their character or your own value. This creates a vital pause, a space where you are no longer pulled by your first impressions. You become the calm director of the play, not an actor caught up in the scene. Your challenge is to try this for just 1 hour today. Move through your world as an observer of events, not a judge of them. When something happens, whether it is a delayed train or a piece of feedback, consciously resist the urge to mark it with a positive or negative label. Simply note what occurred. You will find that the world feels less personal, and your mind, freed from the tiring work of constant judgment, becomes remarkably still. Your mental energy is a finite resource, and where you choose to invest it determines the landscape of your inner world. Picture two concentric circles. The larger outer circle is your circle of concern, a vast space containing everything that occupies your thoughts, from global events to a family member's well-being. The smaller inner circle is your circle of influence, the domain where your actions have a direct and meaningful impact. This is a powerful visualization of the Stoic dichotomy of control in action. Every moment you spend focusing on the enormous outer circle is energy actively drawn away from your smaller, more potent circle of influence. You are pouring your attention into a space where it cannot build or create, leaving your true power source diminished. Think about a common source of modern anxiety, the constant stream of political news. The outer circle of concern might be filled with thoughts about international relations or national policies, events you cannot personally direct. This is where overthinking thrives, generating mental clutter without any clear outlet. Your inner circle of influence, however, contains tangible actions. You can research candidates and vote in your local elections. You can volunteer for a community organization that reflects your values. You can engage in respectful, thoughtful conversations with neighbors. The moment you shift your attention from the overwhelming outer circle to the actionable inner one, you transform restless energy into purposeful motion. Take a pen and a piece of paper right now. Draw these two circles for yourself. In the large circle of concern, list the things you think about often but cannot control. In the smaller circle of influence, list the actions you can actually take today. The physical act of mapping your mental energy is a revelation. It makes abstract anxiety concrete and shows you exactly where to redirect your focus to build a life of less clutter and more calm. This is not about becoming a robot, it is about achieving freedom. The ultimate goal of these practices is a state the Stoics called apatheia, a word often gravely misunderstood. Apatheia is not a cold, emotionless void. It is the profound freedom from the passions, those irrational and excessive emotional storms that can overwhelm your reason and create the most intense mental clutter imaginable. The Stoic sage was not unfeeling, but was known for a clear and untroubled judgment, undisturbed by the turbulent waves of blind anger, consuming envy, or deep-seated fear. These passions are not just feelings, they are judgments on overdrive, distorted interpretations of events that can take over your entire mental landscape. Consider the chaotic inner world of someone in the grip of a jealous moment. Their mind becomes a torrent of comparisons, suspicions, and imagined stories, replaying every interaction and feeding a narrative of lack and injustice. This is the very definition of a cluttered mind, one where reason has been quieted. Now, contrast that with the calm assessment of a person who has practiced Stoic evaluation. They notice the initial impression of jealousy, but they do not feed it. They question its validity, asking if this feeling is based on a reasoned judgment or a fearful story. They find the impression lacking in truth, and they let it pass, preserving their inner quiet and their capacity for clear thought. What single passion most frequently enters your own mental peace, creating noise where there could be calm? Identifying it is the first step toward disarming its power and reclaiming the serene clarity of your own mind. Your mind needs an operating system for the day ahead, a program you install before the noise begins. This is the power of a Stoic morning ritual, a deliberate practice of setting intentions that transforms you from a reactive passenger to the calm pilot of your day. By proactively reviewing the potential challenges you might face and the virtues you wish to embody, you build a psychological buffer before events ever have a chance to unsettle you. You are not waiting for chaos to find you, you are preparing your inner world to meet it with clarity. Marcus Aurelius provided the ultimate blueprint for this in his Personal Meditations, a book that was essentially his own private morning journal. He did not write for an audience, he wrote to remind himself of fundamental truths, to fortify his mind against the pull of distraction and vanity he knew he would encounter as emperor. His writings are filled with this preparatory work. Lines like, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." This was not cynical expectation, it was strategic preparation. By naming these potential difficulties at the start of his day, he was not inviting them, he was draining them of their power to surprise and upset him. He was programming his own response in advance. Your own ritual can be just as simple and direct. In the first quiet minutes of your morning, before checking your phone or starting your routine, take just 2 minutes. Sit quietly and offer a simple intention to yourself. You might say, "Today I will likely meet with difficult people or unexpected delays. My focus will remain on my own character, not on their actions. I will practice patience when plans change and courage when I face criticism." This is not about scripting your entire day, but about setting the default settings for your mind. You are choosing the lens through which you will view events before they even occur. Tomorrow, before the world makes its demands, give yourself this gift of mental preparation. For 2 minutes, define the virtues you wish to guide you. This small daily investment builds an inner strength that no daily frustration can easily breach. Even the most public Stoic leaders understood the non-negotiable need for strategic withdrawal. Amidst the demands of governance and society, they carved out islands of silence because they knew a mind constantly receiving input has no space to process or find clarity. This is not about running away from life, but about creating the necessary conditions for mental order. Our modern world is a symphony of notifications, conversations, and media, a continuous stream that leaves little room for our own thoughts to settle. This constant noise generates a kind of mental static, a low-grade hum of restlessness that makes clear evaluation nearly impossible. Seneca, in his letters, championed the profound benefits of solitude. He wrote that we must take time for conversations with ourselves, for without such retreats, we have no opportunity to know who we are. This self-conversation is the very essence of Stoic evaluation, the quiet space where you can untangle the judgments you formed during the day. Think of the simple act of taking a walk without your phone or a podcast. At first, your mind might feel restless, eager to fill the silence with its own chatter. But if you persist, that chatter begins to settle like sediment in a glass of cloudy water. In the resulting clarity, you can observe your thoughts without being swept away by them. You can ask yourself the Stoic questions, separating what is within your control from what is not, and seeing your impressions for the raw data they are. Your challenge is to schedule just 15 minutes of true solitude and silence into your upcoming week. It does not need to be a grand gesture, just a walk, a moment sitting in a quiet room, or a few minutes of looking out a window without any digital distractions. In that quiet space, you are not doing nothing. You are doing the most important thing, recalibrating your mind and reclaiming the peace that constant noise so easily steals. What if people find your efforts amusing? This worry can be so strong it holds us back before we even start, stirring up a storm of social overthinking. The Stoic answer is not to build a thicker skin, but to fundamentally change what you value in that moment. The reactions of others, their approval or their amusement, are external events completely outside your control. They belong in the same category as the weather, a classic indifferent. Your only focus, the one thing that is truly good, is whether your own action comes from a place of virtue. Are you acting with courage by sharing your work with the world? Are you practicing integrity by honoring your own interests? That inner alignment is your only concern. The teacher Epictetus prepared his students for this very challenge. He taught, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and unwise. He was not promoting foolishness, but pointing to the inevitable price of living by a principle higher than popular opinion. When you commit to a path of growth, you will naturally puzzle or even entertain those who do not share your values. Their reaction is not a measure of your worth, but a reflection of their own point of view. Imagine deciding to learn a new language as an adult, or to begin painting, or to start a small project from your home. The mental chatter quickly starts, suggesting that people might find your early attempts lighthearted, that your endeavor might not be viewed as polished or successful. This fear can be completely stifling, but the Stoic approach asks you to make a simple exchange. Instead of valuing the external outcome of their approval, you place all value on the internal act of creation itself. The virtuous action is the courage to learn, the discipline to practice, the resilience to keep going. Whether anyone ever applauds is irrelevant to the goodness of the effort itself. Think of a time you hesitated from something you truly wanted to do because you worried about the opinions of others. Maybe you did not share a thought in a meeting, or you skipped a social event where you might not know anyone. Now consider one small, meaningful step you could take today in that same spirit, but this time you take it for its own sake. You speak up because it feels right to contribute. You attend because it is brave to reach out. The goal is not to manage the reactions, but to become undisturbed by their influence over you, finding your confidence in the integrity of your own endeavor. All of this practice points toward one ultimate goal. The Stoics called it the summum bonum, the highest good of human life. This is not a complicated philosophical puzzle, but a beautifully simple compass. Your highest good is to live in harmony with nature and virtue, which means using your reason to cultivate an excellent character. When this becomes your single aim, the endless noise of conflicting desires and worries begins to quiet down. Every choice, from the everyday to the life-changing, can be filtered through one clarifying question. Does this action align with wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control? The founder of Stoicism, Zeno, defined the goal of life simply as living in agreement with nature. His successor, Chrysippus, refined this to mean living in accordance with experience of what happens by nature, for our own natures are parts of the whole. This telos, this ultimate purpose, simplifies everything. Imagine facing a complex professional dilemma, a situation where your personal gain seems to conflict with what is fair for a colleague. The mental clutter of weighing potential outcomes, calculating advantages, and fearing losses can feel overwhelming. But when your highest good is your own virtuous character, the evaluation becomes startlingly clear. You simply ask which path here best embodies justice and integrity. The answer may not be easy, but it becomes simple. The virtuous choice is the one that allows you to remain at peace with your own character, regardless of the external result. So, take a moment to define your own highest good in one simple sentence. It might sound something like, "My highest good is to act with courage and kindness in every situation I can influence," or "My purpose is to meet each moment with clear reason and a calm mind." Write that sentence down. This is not just a statement, it is your personal filter for a life with far less clutter and far more meaning. Your mind was never meant to be a battlefield, but a sanctuary. We have journeyed through the core practices of Stoic evaluation, from that foundational filter of the dichotomy of control to the clear-eyed practice of seeing events as they are, not as our fears paint them. Each technique serves a single, unifying purpose: to replace the chaotic storm of overthinking with the disciplined architecture of purposeful thought. This is the true goal, a mind clarified through virtue, where your energy is invested not in fighting shadows, but in building a life of character. The philosophy does not ask you to stop thinking, but to start thinking with intention, to become the calm architect of your inner world. The ultimate freedom, as Epictetus so powerfully reminds us, is found in this inner citadel. He wrote, "No person is free who is not master of themselves." That mastery is not a distant ideal. It is the daily practice of choosing your focus, evaluating your impressions, and anchoring your peace in what is truly your own. Your path to a quieter mind begins with a single, deliberate step. Choose just one practice from our journey today. Perhaps the nightly journaling to untangle your day, or the morning ritual to set your intentions. Start with that one thing tomorrow, and as you begin, share your choice in the comments below, telling us which technique you are embracing. Your story can inspire others, and together we can build a community focused not on the noise, but on the profound quiet that lies within our own reasoned minds.